Right now on Morning News Now, the votes are in this morning. Ballots still being counted, but the key races have been decided. In Ohio, a victory for supporters of reproductive rights and the legalization of marijuana. And in Kentucky, NBC News projecting 4 more years for Democratic Governor Andy Beshear.
This was our victory. I stand here excited and optimistic about what we're going to do these next 4 years together.
Meanwhile, in Miami, the stage is set for tonight's Republican presidential primary debate. We have team coverage. Also this morning, Ivanka Trump set to testify in the civil fraud case against her father, Donald Trump, and their family business. What to expect in court today. Plus, a bloody battle in Gaza City as Israel steps up its ground offensive against Hamas. We'll bring you the latest on the war, including new concerns about what comes next. And the downside of getting high, the new warning from researchers about the health risks of marijuana use. It is good to have you with us on a Wednesday. Good morning. I'm Savannah Sellers.
And I'm Joe Fryer. We begin this morning with the results of Election Day across the country as voters make their voices heard.
The results could also potentially foreshadow how next year's presidential election could play out. Abortion was on the ballot in some places where it's really become the political issue in the nearly year and a half since the Supreme Court struck down Roe v. Wade. In Ohio, voters approved enshrining abortion rights into the state constitution, giving a big win to abortion rights advocates. The measure guarantees every person in Ohio the right to, quote, one's own reproductive medical treatment, including but not limited to abortion.
And over in Kentucky, Governor Andy Beshear wins re-election, holding off Republican challenger Daniel Cameron. Abortion was a huge issue in that race. And here's an interesting fact. The party that wins the Kentucky governor's race has gone on the following year to win the White House in the last few election cycles. Beshear addressed supporters during a victory party last night in Louisville.
Folks, this wasn't my win. This was our victory. It was a victory that sends a loud, clear message. A message that candidates should run for something and not against someone.
Let's break it all down with NBC News correspondent Priscilla Thompson in Columbus, Ohio, and NBC News senior political editor Mark Murray. Good morning to both of you. Priscilla, let's start with you there in Ohio. Big victory last night for abortion rights advocates in a pretty red state. What's some of the reaction you are seeing there in Columbus?
Yeah, Joe, Savannah, good morning. I was in a room full of abortion access advocates last night when that decision came in, and there were a lot of cheers, a lot of tears, and a lot of hugs. These were the folks who had spent months organizing and advocating, and they were even out until polls closed last night, knocking doors. And I want to play some of what I heard from those folks in that room.
We showed up against all odds, against all the misinformation and disinformation. And we said, enough with the bans on our bodies. Give us agency and autonomy to make these most personal decisions of when and where you start a family.
It's unlike any other feeling I've ever felt, just overwhelmed with joy for democracy and for freedom of people. I think this is going to have a ripple effect across the nation, but also for Ohio in 2024.
And picking up on her last point, there are at least 7 states in 2024 that will have a similar measure on the ballot. And just to be clear, what this amendment does is it says the right to an abortion is enshrined in the state constitution, but that the state legislature can put limits on that after the point of fetal viability, which is around 22 to 24 weeks. And so we heard the folks in that room saying last night they are going to stand with those other states. They are going to walk them through how they organized, how they did it. So this has certainly dealt a blow to the anti-abortion advocates here as they try to think through what comes next this morning. Joe, Savannah.
And Mark, let's bring you in here. So there were 2 governor races that we were watching closely last night. What do we know right now about the re-election wins in both Kentucky and Mississippi?
Yeah, Savannah, it points to the power of incumbency, and kind of despite so much of the political chaos and instability and Americans thinking that the country's headed in the wrong direction, we have seen Democratic and Republican incumbents end up getting reelected, not only here, but in the 2022 midterms, where only one incumbent ended up going down to defeat. And when you're incumbent, you often end up having a big advantage when it comes to resources, that you were able to have 4 years to lay the groundwork for your own re-election. And Bashir used that. And as Joe mentioned earlier, in addition to incumbency, he was able to use the issue of abortion and fighting for abortion rights in his advertising against Republican Daniel Cameron. In Mississippi, you did have a scandal that had affected the state government, that Tate Reeves was having to battle through. It involved former NFL quarterback Brett Favre, and the Democrat in the race, Brandon Presley, was able to keep almost even in resources and ad spending with Reeves, but Reeves was able to hold on in that red state of Mississippi.
Priscilla, let's touch on another issue here. It didn't get as much attention as abortion, but in Ohio, we have the legalization of recreational marijuana, the 24th state to do that. What's the significance of that?
Yeah, Joe, it's huge because this is a state that is considered conservative, red-leaning, that has voted to legalize marijuana, with 57% of voters making that choice and voting in favor of that. And again, it may be a lesson on messaging, because what the advocates for that said was that this is just like alcohol and we should regulate it and we should tax it just like alcohol. And as I was at the polls yesterday talking to folks, a lot of people seem to agree with that. Now, that's not to say that this is working everywhere. We saw last year in Oklahoma a measure like this failed, but it is going to be on the ballot in 2024 in a number of those kinds of states: Florida, Nebraska, South Dakota, among others. So it'll be interesting to see how it plays out there as well. Joe, Savannah?
And Mark, let's talk about some new information that we're getting from last night, exit polling that we're seeing. What can you tell us about how people feel regarding abortion rights in the state of Ohio? And if you're working right now on the Biden re-election campaign, what are big takeaways from last night's results?
Yeah, I think the big takeaway is just the power of abortion in our politics after Roe versus Wade was overturned. According to the exit poll in Ohio, and remember, Ohio is a red state in our American politics right now, you end up having Democrats holding the advantage on which party better handles the issue of abortion. But maybe more significantly, you have about 6 in 10 voters who participated last night who believe that abortion should be legal in all or most circumstances. Another 6 in 10 who think that they oppose the overturn of Roe versus Wade. And this is all happening not in a place like California or New York with these 6 in 10 margins, but in the state of Ohio. And we saw the same dynamic play out last year in Kansas as well. And it just shows you that if these types of issues like abortion play this way in the Ohio's and Kansas of the world, that yes, the Democrats see this is a very powerful issue for them.
All right, Priscilla and Mark kicking us off this hour with election coverage. Thank you both.
Thank you. Well, this morning, Republican presidential candidates are preparing to take the stage in Miami for the third GOP primary debate. It's hosted by NBC News. Tonight's slimmed-down field will feature 5 presidential hopefuls. You see them on your screen: Florida Governor Ron DeSantis, businessman Vivek Ramaswamy, former South Carolina Governor Nikki Haley, former New Jersey Governor Chris Christie, and South Carolina Senator Tim Scott.
One notable contender, of course, will be missing: former President Donald Trump. The Republican frontrunner also skipped the first 2 debates. Once again, he's offering some counter-programming, a rally just outside Miami planned for tonight while the debate is taking place. For a preview, we're joined by NBC News correspondent Vaughn Hilliard, who is in Florida, and senior national politics reporter Jonathan Allen.
Vaughn, let's kick it off with you. So Nikki Haley, we have seen her see a boost in polling after her last 2 debate performances. And then Governor Ron DeSantis also just secured this big endorsement from Iowa Governor Kim Reynolds. Both have sort of pitched themselves as alternatives to Donald Trump. What are the 2 saying in the lead up to tonight's debate, and what will you be watching for in their performances?
Right. Good morning, Savannah and Joe. Just look at this. We're 68 days away from January 15th, which is the Iowa caucus. And when you see where Donald Trump is in polling nationally, but also in the likes of Iowa, New Hampshire, South Carolina, he continues to dominate this field. And that's where you see Nikki Haley and Ron DeSantis looking at this debate as their opportunity to separate themselves from the rest of the pack and make it clear that they are the best Trump alternative. So you should expect tonight, based off of these past weeks of them on the campaign trail, that these two individuals really begin to take each other head on. When you look at the latest polling out of Iowa, Donald Trump sits at 43%. The next on down, tied at 16%, Nikki Haley and Ron DeSantis. So it's not just about polling support, but also donor support and making the case over the next 2 months that they are the ones that are the best alternative to take Donald Trump head on.
John, let's talk about some of the other candidates. The GOP field has been shrinking, certainly when it comes to who can qualify for debates. So what is Senator Scott, former Governor Christie, Ramaswamy, what do they need to do to stay alive until the caucus begins in Iowa?
Yeah, good morning, Joe and Savannah. The short answer is they're going to need the donors to meet the threshold. They're going to need the polling to meet the threshold to make that next debate. And, you know, it could be that we see multiple candidates fall off the debate stage between now and then. Tim Scott certainly in that position of having some concern, Chris Christie in that position of having some concern, and Vivek Ramaswamy having concerns about that. Tonight, I think, as Vaughn said, we're going to see a little bit of a consolidation just in terms of, you know, who the rest of the Republican Party is watching closely, and that'll be Nikki Haley and Ron DeSantis, and we'll see if any of the rest of them are able to make that next debate stage.
Poor John coming to us from a Miami balcony, water in the background. John, tell us, especially when we're looking at those top two contenders, what will you be watching out for tonight, listening for?
Number one, I want to see how they're going to contrast against each other. And number two, how they're going to contrast against Donald Trump, who was the far and away front runner. For a long time, nobody laid a glove on Trump. We saw Trump, you know, effectively weigh Ron DeSantis down to the point that DeSantis is actually polling worse than Trump against Joe Biden in some polls. So, you know, what are these candidates going to say that tells Republican voters that they would be better in a general election against Joe Biden? What are they going to say that tells Republican voters that they will be better than the other one, meaning Haley better than DeSantis or DeSantis better than Haley against Donald Trump?
Vaughn, as we mentioned, Donald Trump will not be in attendance at tonight's debate. Instead, he's going to hold a rally at nearby Hialeah, which has a Latin population of more than 90%. Trump has seen growth when it comes to that demographic. So what are we expecting to hear from the former president tonight?
Right. On two counts here, Donald Trump has tried consistently to make the case to Republican voters that this Republican primary is already over. That is why he's not on the debate stage tonight, instead holding a rally and making the case that Republicans should focus on beating Joe Biden 11 months from now. But for Donald Trump, this is, you know, where he is in such a strong position in this Republican field. Just take on Monday. He was sitting in a courtroom in Lower Manhattan testifying in a lawsuit against his family business, one that could potentially lead to the stripping of the business license of the Trump organization. The other Republicans thought that come the time that these trials begin, that this would knock Donald Trump down off his pedestal as leader of the Republican Party. But that is just not the reality that we have lived through. In fact, since his indictments and the lawsuits that have come against him, he has only strengthened his position. And so for Donald Trump, instead of going on the debate stage and taking on the likes of Nikki Haley, Ron DeSantis, Chris Christie, who he contends are so far down, and if you look at polling, they are anywhere from 25 to 40 points below him. Instead of giving them any credence or any time, he says that it's important for Republicans to go and make the case to voters, including in the heavily Latino population just outside of Miami here, that they need to focus on beating Joe Biden and the Democrats. And based off the results of last night's election, Donald Trump has a case to make.
Vaughn Hilliard, John Allen, thank you both very much.
And you can catch tonight's GOP debate from Miami live right here on NBC News Now. It'll be moderated by NBC Nightly News anchor Lester Holt, Meet the Press moderator Kristen Welker, along with Hugh Hewitt of the Salem Radio Network. Coverage kicks off at 8 p.m. Eastern, 5 Pacific time. Today, Ivanka Trump is set to take the stand in the civil fraud case against her father, her brothers, and their family business. The former president's eldest daughter served as executive vice president for development and acquisitions at the Trump Organization until 2017.
For more on this, we are joined by MSNBC anchor Lindsay Reiser. She is outside the courthouse in Lower Manhattan. And we've got NBC News legal analyst Danny Sabelos here on set with us.
Lindsay, let's start with you. You've been following this trial from the beginning. You've already seen Donald Trump Jr., Eric Trump, and then, of course, the former president himself take the stand. So what can we expect today inside that courtroom?
Well, Ivanka Trump has fought her subpoena to testify. In fact, she appealed it, saying that it would be cumbersome for her kids' schedule. And she also appealed on relevance and jurisdiction. She doesn't live in New York anymore. Now, the First Department Appellate Division denied that motion for a stay of her testimony. So we are expecting to hear from her today. And the Attorney General's office says she has intimate details and knowledge of these business dealings that are at the heart of this case. That the Attorney General's office says many of these deals were based off of financial statements that had overinflated values, so they got better terms than they should have gotten. And we can definitely hear a lot about a couple of different properties. Number one is the old post office that was transformed into the luxury hotel. They sold it in 2022. She was the captain for that project. She was also the main contact between the Trump Organization and their largest lender, Deutsche Bank. So we're probably going to hear a lot about Deutsche Bank today. And also 2 penthouse apartments in Trump Park Avenue. Essentially, she was offered the opportunity to buy those apartments at a much lower rate than what was listed on the financial statements for one of those apartments. She could buy it for $8.5 million, but it was valued at $25 million on one of those financial statements. And then, different from what we've seen from Don and Eric and the former president himself, she will likely, to the extent that the defense team will want to face cross-examination after the direct examination from the state attorney general's office. That is because they want to avoid her having to come and travel again and leave her kids again. So we're likely to hear from her today. Could it go into tomorrow? Possibly, but the Defense Department says that they don't want to have trial tomorrow if possible. They want to file some motions likely to appeal the case on some of the things that we've seen this week and last week. And then they expect to begin their case, the defense does, in earnest on Monday. They say they should be wrapped up by December 15th. Joe and Savannah.
Let's bring Danny in here on set with us. So as Lindsay laid out, Ivanka different in this particular case than her brothers are. She hasn't really been involved in the Trump Organization since 2017, dismissed as an actual defendant. So what will you be looking for with that backdrop in her testimony? You know, is this somebody who could help her father potentially?
Possibly. I mean, maybe in the sense that the other Trump witnesses, the sons, were not nearly as enthusiastic government witnesses. And, of course, that was no surprise. These are people who are going to be hostile to the attorney general and their mission. But what I am interested in is something that Lindsay mentioned, which is the extent to which she was involved in connecting up the Trump defendants with Deutsche Bank. I think that may be interesting, but it's entirely possible she may testify pretty consistently with the other Trump children, which is the theme that, look, I may have been involved from a figurehead perspective, but I relied heavily on our accountants and other people. And even if I provided information to them, they are the ones who prepared those financial statements. And I am someone who just supplied information. I wasn't involved in presenting that. But because she is a witness and not a party, there is that subtle gravitational pull that she should probably not think too much about loyalty and focus on telling the truth.
So, I mean, Lindsay, since she left the White House, Ivanka has distanced herself from her family, at least in the public realm. What are we hearing from Team Trump ahead of Ivanka's testimony?
He posted on Truth Social, blasting this entire case, saying, I am worth billions of dollars more than what is on my financial statements. They are very conservative. This echoes what he has said in front of the cameras, what he said on the stand, that he didn't include his most valuable asset, his brand. The Attorney General's office says that some of these financial statements actually did take that into account and also just called that something intangible that you can't take into account. The former president repeated a derogatory term that he has used against Attorney General Letitia James before in his Truth Social post. He again mentioned that he is not allowed a jury. This is a bench trial, so it's only the judge who's going to be deciding on the rest of the causes of action and damages. The judge has said that that is not that kind of case. This is a bench trial case. And he also tried to pull out a document when he was testifying that it was essentially the disclaimer clause that banks have to do their own due diligence. And so that might be something we see again when it comes to a possible appeal, guys.
So, Danny, Ivanka is the last witness for the state. What are you looking for? What can we expect in the defense's case coming up?
The defense's case is going to focus on one major theme, which is something that Lindsay just referred to, that the Trump brand and real estate values, two separate things, are both so intangible that New York real estate or real estate anywhere is worth whatever someone wants to pay for it. And sometimes it's worth, in maybe someone's delusional mind who's selling it, whatever they think it's worth when they put it on the market. We've all been on Zillow and said they want that for that. So that argument, as silly as it sounds, applies to gigantic buildings the same way it applies to, I don't know, a condo. So this is going to be a big part of their argument. So, too, is going to be the idea that the Trump brand is totally intangible. It could be worth infinity.
All right. Lindsay Reiser, Danny Ceballos, thank you both. Appreciate it.
Thank you. Let's turn now to the escalating violence between Israel and Hamas. Defense troops are continuing to move further into Gaza City, where Israeli forces believe the Hamas command center is located.
Israel's defense minister says Gaza has been divided in two, with northern Gaza completely isolated from life-saving supplies and fuel. But as troops prepare for possible combat, questions are growing over Israel's plan for after the invasion. Prime Minister Netanyahu says he plans to have infinite control of Gaza's security. But White House National Security Council Coordinator John Kirby says the Biden administration does not agree with that.
Let the Prime Minister speak to his comments and what he meant by indefinite. President Biden's been very clear we don't support a reoccupation of Gaza by the Israeli Defense Forces. We do think that there needs to be a healthy set of conversations about what post-conflict Gaza looks like and what governance looks like. What we absolutely agree with our Israeli counterparts on is what it can't look like, and it can't look like it looked on October 6th.
Yesterday, Israelis marked 1 month since the war began, remembering the more than 1,400 lives lost and honoring the nearly 240 hostages who were taken.
NBC News correspondent Jay Gray joins us from Tel Aviv with the very latest. Hey, Jay, good morning. So the Israeli Defense Forces are closing in on Gaza City, as we've been discussing, really completely isolating northern Gaza at this point. This was the area that they had asked people to move from, asked them to move south. But despite that, hundreds of thousands of residents did choose to remain in the area or did not have somewhere else to go. Walk us through the reasons people have chosen to stay and what kind of risk they are taking on as a result, what we're now seeing happen in the north of Gaza.
Yeah, and frankly, Savannah, they are risking their lives by staying in northern Gaza, but many don't have the ability to move. They either physically cannot move because of injuries, because of age, and no ability to get to where they're going. There are many who say they just don't trust the Israeli soldiers and the corridors that have been created, and we have seen some of those fall apart at times. And then there are others who don't believe they will ever be able to get back. Remember, these are people who are leaving with basically only the things they can carry and leaving their life's possessions behind. And again, many think that this is just another step toward Israel pushing them from Gaza, even though it's been said that that won't be the case. I should point out the IDF has said within the last hour or so that one of the corridors leading out of the north has been filled with thousands trying to get away from that area. So maybe a little progress, but you're right, still hundreds of thousands left behind there.
Yeah, I mean, Jay, the UN says all bakeries in northern Gaza are now closed because of the lack of fuel, lack of water, lack of wheat. UN also says health, sanitation, food services, they've all reached a breaking point. So what does this mean for people who are still living in northern Gaza? Is any aid getting to them?
Yeah, let's start with that, Joe. And no aid is getting to northern Gaza right now. No water, no food, no medicine, anything. And one of the reasons is the dangers there, but another is a lack of fuel. They can't make the trip from the Rafah border crossing into northern Gaza. They just don't have enough fuel. Starvation has become a very real concern for the UN and other human rights organizations. There's no water, so that is adding to the problem there. And there's nowhere those we've spoken to inside northern Gaza say to put the bodies of those who have been lost. And so living conditions have become horrific for many. Their buildings that are crumbled have been turned into tombs, essentially. And the UN is very worried about the spread of disease right now in that area.
Jay, also, as we just discussed a moment ago, we heard these comments from Prime Minister Netanyahu about the future of Gaza's security. It seemed to catch the White House off guard. We played a little bit there of what we heard in terms of a response, but remind us what exactly was said by Netanyahu, and then if there's been any clarification from the Israelis on what that meant.
Yeah, and what Benjamin Netanyahu said was that Israel should, and I'm quoting here, have an indefinite period with overall control of security in Gaza. And leaders here in Israel quickly chimed in, endorsing that. Even the opposition leader has said that he believes that should be the case. The White House is pushing back. We have heard from the president, who says any reoccupation of Gaza would be, and this is a quote from him, a big mistake in that region. They want no reduction of territory and have even said that Gaza and the West Bank should be united under the leadership of the Palestinian Authority when this war is over. So they've created a firm line as far as pushing back on those comments.
All right, Jay Gray, thank you very much.
Let's continue our coverage, bringing in Ilana Sinenko for more on this. She is a spokesperson for the International Committee of the Red Cross. Ilana, thank you so much for joining us. We want to start with talking with some recent developments. Your group says that 2 of your trucks were damaged after a convoy came under fire yesterday. Just tell us, what are the conditions your aid workers are facing right now, and how are you responding to the destruction of these aid convoys?
Indeed, yesterday was an incredibly difficult day for our team in Gaza, as if not every day is difficult for them. They were on the way to deliver urgent medical supplies to Al-Quds Hospital in Gaza City, and on the way, the convoy was hit, despite the fact that it was clearly marked, and they had to turn and they delivered the supplies in Al-Shifa Hospital instead, and then accompanied 6 ambulances to Rafah crossing. The working conditions are becoming more and more difficult every single day. I speak with our surgical team every day. They say that as of tonight, they will no longer have light, electricity where they sleep, so I'm going to be much more difficult for us to connect with them. They continue receiving patients, children with horrific wounds, burns, and they're running out of the basic necessities to be able to treat them, things like Vaseline gauze. So these are incredibly difficult conditions to work in. And also now with this incident, we just need to reassess the security for our teams.
Absolutely. Ilana, also, if we could turn and discuss the hostages for a moment. So Prime Minister Netanyahu is once again calling on Hamas to let the Red Cross evaluate the hostages being held in Gaza, visit with them. Has the Red Cross been able to contact Hamas leaders about the hostages? Have you been given any updates or any type of proof of life?
We've been in touch directly with Hamas authorities on the issue of hostages. It is one of our urgent priorities. We managed to facilitate the release of 4 hostages, but it's far from enough. Much more needs to be done, so we continue these discussions with everyone who can have any influence on this situation. And first and foremost, we insist that taking hostages is against international humanitarian law, that they should be released. And then also we want to visit them, get them the medicine that they need, just let their families know, get the news for the families, because it's impossible to imagine the nightmare that they're going through every single day.
Why hasn't that happened yet? I mean, for those who don't understand, how should this typically go? Why is it not happening now?
Well, it's hard for me to give you the reasons why is this not happening now. But like, if we look at currently at the situation in Gaza, I just don't see, unfortunately, any progress on any humanitarian issue that we are making, whether this has to do with delivery of urgent supplies to Gaza civilians as their situation is becoming more and more dire, or getting access to the hostages. I think, like, for us, we are a humanitarian organization, and we have mobilized every single resource that we can people and resources to try to reach people that need our help. But unless there are political, unless there are diplomatic solutions, and we're giving the necessary access, we just can't force our way through bullets. We won't be able to do our work if we're not giving the chance to do it.
Is this an unprecedented operation for the Red Cross in terms of its difficulties and in terms of what you are seeing, your team is seeing right before them, the humanitarian need?
I'm afraid that in the crisis of today and looking at the world of today and how more and more polarized it's becoming, the space for neutral and impartial humanitarian organizations like ours is unfortunately shrinking because everything is becoming political, including humanitarian aid, and it is a huge issue for us. So unfortunately, in terms of access and for us, our organization not being able to get access to where we need to be, I'm afraid to say that this is not unprecedented. With the results of the human suffering, I don't think it's ethical or possible to compare, but clearly what I'm speaking to my colleagues in Gaza every day and what they are telling me as a humanitarian professional who's been in this area for 15 years, I just cannot, it's impossible to listen to this and keep calm. Yesterday on the way to the Gaza city, they saw thousands of people walking, children, elderly people, people in wheelchairs, and when they saw them, they were asking, like, where can we get to safety? How can we get food? How we can get water? And our team, they just didn't have the answers to this question. And as a humanitarian worker, it's very painful to work in this type of situation.
Absolutely. Alana Sinenko, thank you so much for your time this morning, for the work that you're doing and sharing it with us. We appreciate you.
Thank you.
Let's now take a look at some foggy weather along the Gulf Coast this morning and some showers from Michigan to right here in New York today.
Meteorologist Angie Lastman's tracking it all with Morning News Now forecast. Angie, good morning.
Hey, good morning, guys. We do have indeed some fog that has developed across parts of the Gulf Coast, and we've got advisories up for that dense fog stretching from Florida all the way into portions of Louisiana. There's hazardous driving conditions for that early morning commute with reduced visibilities. You can see some of these about a mile coming out from Mobile and less than a mile from Hattiesburg down to Slidell. This is going to be something we deal with at least for another couple of hours. Once the sun comes up, we start to see that air kind of mixing, and that fog, of course, diminishes. But still, the driving conditions are difficult. We had a super fog event that developed yesterday, and there's a couple of reasons for that. This was in Louisiana along I-10. You can see there was a marsh fire just off to the east. This started to bring some smoke in. It mixed with that saturated air, and then we saw really dense fog developing in a hurry. We, of course, had some accidents that happened in that region along I-10, and that as that light wind started to push that fog into the northwest. So the reduced visibility was something we saw yesterday. We're still seeing it today, and we'll be watching it through at least the rest of the morning hours. Meanwhile, across the rest of the country, we've got record highs that we're tracking across the south. It's going to be another warm one, shorts, t-shirt weather with a whole lot of sunshine, especially across places like Texas. We'll see plenty of sunshine in Florida. But we do have some rain and some snow, a wintry mix to track for portions of the Great Lakes. This is going to be a bit of rain, maybe a little ice and some snow even, especially in the northern tier of the Great Lakes, the upper peninsula of Michigan, parts of Wisconsin, and even western New York could get in on this action. Now, as we get into tomorrow, some of that will work its way into New England. We'll see mainly rain from Boston south, but it'll be a little bit of snow and a little bit of that icy mix that we'll have to deal with for northern New England. Of course, temperatures will take a tumble too. So those 80s that they're seeing in the south, guys, that will not be the case for parts of New England tomorrow.
No 80s in New England? All right.
Taste of winter. Angie, thank you. Well, there is much more to come here on Morning News Now later this hour. It's a big responsibility that could come with a big reward. What new research shows about the health benefits of being a caregiver for your loved ones.
Up first after the break, new developments in the case against President Biden's son. What the special counsel is saying about rumors of an ill-fated sweetheart deal. We'll be right back. Welcome back. The special counsel leading the investigation into Hunter Biden testified in front of the House Judiciary Committee yesterday. It's the first time a special counsel has answered questions from lawmakers during an ongoing probe.
David Weiss denied Republican allegations that he cut a sweetheart deal for the president's son under pressure from the White House. Weiss said during an opening statement, quote, "I am and have been the decision maker on this case. At no time was I blocked or otherwise prevented from pursuing charges or taking the steps necessary in the investigation by other United States attorneys, the tax division, or anyone else at the Department of Justice."
NBC News congressional correspondent Julie Sirkin joins us now with more on this. So, Julie, the meeting was closed to the press, but hey, it's Washington, so we kind of know what happened. So what are we learning about what David Weiss told House members?
Well, exactly. It was closed to the press. It was unprecedented. The first time, as you guys said, that a special counsel in an ongoing investigation actually testified before Congress. But the reason David Weiss did that, besides already agreeing to do so before he had that special counsel status, was to really dispute the claims made by those IRS whistleblowers the committee sat down with earlier this summer, who said that Weiss was limited in his charging authority, who said that Weiss perhaps wanted to act and was hamstrung from acting and doing so in terms of charging Hunter Biden. He told the committee, listen, during his time investigating the case since 2018, he properly went through the steps. He doesn't operate in a vacuum. He said there are other people involved, including from the Department of Justice, when he does make the decisions in terms of charging or not to charge. He did say as well, disputing the fact that those IRS whistleblowers claim that he had requested special counsel before, that the first time he did so was actually not until August 2023, and he was promptly granted that authority when he requested it.
So, Julie, this investigation has been this source of contention between Republicans and Democrats on the Hill. What did lawmakers from each side ultimately have to say about the testimony?
It certainly has, and mainly because when Republicans have led these probes, even in that first impeachment inquiry hearing at the end of September, Democrats in that panel called Republicans out, saying, listen, you've been investigating this for 9 months now. You've yet to present a clear link or evidence linking the president with the business dealings of his son. Take a listen to some dueling reaction from Republicans and Democrats on the panel.
We're concerned that those decisions were made corruptly in order to protect the Biden family. And if we're unable to get any substance, regarding those discussions or deliberations, then it's a real roadblock for us.
He stated multiple times that he made all the charging decisions on his own, that no one gave him any instructions or suggestions as to charging decisions. And the Republicans just keep going over and over the same material and getting the same answers.
Now, Joe, as you said, it is Washington, so we did know a little bit about what Weiss said behind closed doors, but something he couldn't touch on at all, which is something you heard frustration from Gates about, is the investigation. He said it's ongoing. He can't talk about it, but he'll follow up with the committee once it's complete.
So let's talk more about the Republicans' impeachment inquiry into the president over his family's business dealings. We know the House Oversight Committee is planning to try and issue some subpoenas for, it would be for Hunter Biden, for the president's brother, James Biden. Do we have an idea of when those subpoenas could be issued and what it is they're looking for?
And potentially even more subpoenas to other Biden family members or requests for voluntary interviews. We could potentially see those subpoenas start to come down as soon as today. And this isn't a surprise to really any of us who've been following this closely, or even members in the committee, because they've been saying that they wanted to get to this point. They wanted to get to the point where they could subpoena the president's son, the president's brother, James. This is all over those bank records that the committee has obtained in the last couple of weeks. They say that they see some evidence of payments linked from the president's son, the president's brother, other family members directly to him. That's one of the reasons they want to subpoena those family members. This is also something that the new House Speaker, Mike Johnson, had floated just a couple of days ago, that perhaps it's a step that is overdue. But again, we don't have concrete timing details just yet, but we do know they're coming very, very soon.
All right, Julie Sirkin, thank you so much.
Now let's get you some international headlines. We're going to start with some early winter weather hitting China.
NBC News foreign correspondent Janice Mackey-Frayer joins us from Beijing with that and more. Janice, good morning.
Good morning. From chilly China, there's a spell of cold weather and heavy snowfall causing havoc across the northeastern part of the country. Trains have been halted, flights have been canceled, some schools have been closed after temperatures dropped sharply in just a few days. Heavy snowfall is being blamed for the collapse of a gymnasium roof, killing 3 students. Forecasters are warning record snowfall for this time of year, up to 8 inches in some places in the north. Portugal's prime minister has resigned amid an investigation into alleged irregularities in lithium mining and hydrogen projects. Antonio Costa announced the decision in a televised statement after meeting with the country's president. He says his conscience is clear and that he'll cooperate with the investigation. The infrastructure minister is a suspect, and Costa's chief of staff has also been detained. And finally, a very rare blue diamond has sold for over $40 million at an auction by Christie's in Geneva. The 17.61 carat whopper is pear-shaped. It's set in a ring, and it is known as the Bleu Royal. Christie's calls it, quote, the largest internally flawless, fancy, vivid blue gem. Fancy indeed. It's the first time that it's come up for auction. It was, for the past 50 years, part of a private collection.
I like
that is all that sparkles in the world today.
Flawless fancy.
Yeah, the official title calls it fancy. It certainly is. Janice, thank you so much.
Coming up, matters of the heart and the mind.
When we come back, the new research that shows being heart healthy starts with making good decisions. Of course, this is Morning News Now. It's time for our weekly medical checkup. This week, we're going to take a look at the impact marijuana use could have on your heart health.
Plus, the benefits of practicing mindfulness and how it can help you make better eating choices.
NBC News medical contributor Dr. Natalie Azar is here on these headlines for us this morning. Good morning.
Good morning, guys.
So we actually just, in the headlines this morning, I mean, this was just voted to be legalized recreationally in Ohio just yesterday on Election Day, marijuana. And so as more states consider doing the same thing, what is it that we need to know here? What's this connection?
I think there's a popular assumption that smoking pot is safer than smoking cigarettes. And I think on a lot of different measures, maybe pulmonologists would agree with that. The issue is that when you smoke marijuana, you actually get the development of carbon monoxide and tar in your lungs. And as you can well imagine, that's not good for you. This, however, these studies, this is a pair of studies that looked at the potential heart impacts of smoking marijuana. And what they found was that there was a third higher risk of heart failure, congestive heart failure, if you're a daily user of cannabis. And further, if you're hospitalized and you already have hypertension and high cholesterol and diabetes, you are at a higher risk of having a heart attack or stroke. And they excluded people who smoke cigarettes. So they basically independently said cannabis is associated with these heart issues. So my doctor's orders are this. I say everything in moderation, because are people going to stop smoking pot? Of course they're not. Just like we know alcohol is a carcinogen, people aren't going to stop drinking. But please understand that there could be potential risks, and also know your health risks. So if you already have cardiovascular risk factors, be a little bit more mindful and don't just assume that smoking pot is without potential harm.
Let's talk about something that might be a surprising benefit if you're a caregiver, maybe an aging parent or an ill spouse. That often responsibility falls on women, and there's research that shows those women might be living longer. Why is that?
This really surprised me, because as a caregiver myself, I understand the potential physical and emotional stress of taking care of a loved one, right? And we always assume that that can, and it does in certain cases, have potential negative impacts on people. So 60% of caregivers in this country are female, not surprising. This study looked at a period of 10 years, and what they found was really striking. Women caregivers have a 9% lower risk of dying over those 10 years, and more importantly, they had a lower risk of dying from heart disease and cancer. Really, really striking endpoints here. My doctor's orders are this. To the degree that you can, in spite of this seemingly positive, message, share the burden. It is very difficult to do it all yourself. So really enlist the resources of friends if you have the financial means to get some help. And don't forget about self-care. It's very easy. We do it with our children, but we also do it with our parents and or spouses or loved ones, that you put yourself second. You need, in order for you to be strong to take care of that person, you need to be healthy yourself.
Great reminder. Okay, this one's about high blood pressure. So numbers here, about almost half of Americans have high blood pressure,
Yes.
but then less than a quarter. Is that right? Have it under control.
Controlled,
and,
yes.
and there's mindfulness could be helpful here, as it is, I suppose, in
Yes.
most things. But like we're
Yes.
sticking with a diet or something like that.
Right.
What's this about?
So it is basically sticking to a lifestyle. And here we're talking about the DASH diet. That stands for Dietary Approaches to Stop Hypertension. This is espoused by every cardiologist. What does this include? You are to limit sodium to 1 tablespoon every day. And if you focus on vegetables, fruits, whole grains, low-fat dairy, fish, beans, and nuts, you'll go very far as long as you're not adding salt. So this study looked at a period of 8 weeks where they did this mindfulness approach to sort of impact people's behavior. Think things like yoga, meditation. And this is what they found, that people who stuck to this program had a higher awareness of their actions and emotions. They were able to recognize their cravings. They thought about the impact of their choices. And then after they got mad at themselves about their choices, they were also supposed to give themselves compassion for their choices. But it really seemed to work. So my doctor's orders here are listen to your body. I think this is a lot. I never understood exactly how Noom worked, and I don't want to misspeak, but I think there's like this thing about thinking about what you do, and the behavioral consequences really impact how people, the choices that they make in terms of what they put in their mouths. And, you know, small changes. So if you can just think, you know, maybe today I'm not going to add this, I'll add some garlic powder instead of salt. Every little thing will help, because again, lowering that salt intake goes such a long way, and so many people don't require medication anymore to treat their hypertension.
That's good news.
Yeah.
Dr. Natalie Azar, thank you so much. Great headlines today. Well, coming up, Instagram users, no more getting left on red, as it's called, at least that you know of.
Yeah, we're going to tell you about the new plan to get rid of those red receipts on your IG messages. Stay with us. You're watching Morning News Now. Welcome back. Time for what's making financial headlines. Microsoft shares are soaring and boosted by signs of optimism in their investment in AI.
CNBC's Silvana Henao joins us. Hey, good morning, Silvana.
Good morning, Savannah. Good morning, Joe. Yeah, so shares of Microsoft are trading at an all-time high, and the stock is on an 8-day winning streak. That's the longest stretch in nearly 3 years. The move coming after OpenAI announced several updates to ChatGPT, including price cuts and the ability for people to make their own custom versions of the AI chatbot. Microsoft is a major backer of OpenAI, reportedly investing $13 billion, and has an exclusive license to the GPT-4 language model. Meantime, Amazon reportedly working on its own AI model to compete with ChatGPT and Google's Bard. Half of Americans say their financial situation has gotten worse since the 2020 election. In a new survey from Bankrate, just under half of those people point to President Biden as the reason why. About a third blame Congress and a quarter the Federal Reserve. A majority of Americans say their cost of living is worse since the 2020 election. Nearly 90% say the economy will be an important factor in how they vote next year. And Instagram is testing a feature to let users turn off red receipts for direct messages. This means even if you've read someone's message, they won't see the seen label below the message. You can access Instagram's privacy and safety menu by tapping on the name of the profile under a chat. If you are part of the test, you'll see a toggle switch to turn off red receipts, guys. Some people will be pretty happy about that.
I think some people will. All right,
Yeah.
Silvana, thank you so much. It's a situation that might have you saying, oh dear.
We're going to get the backstory behind this viral video of a truck sale interrupted by a flying deer. Look at that jump. This is what is
It's been nearly 2 decades since actor Patrick Dempsey first won hearts when Grey's Anatomy debuted. Now he's finally getting the recognition his fans have been calling for. Dempsey has just been crowned Sexiest Man Alive by People magazine. The 57-year-old who played Derek McDreamy Shepherd on the show joked that he's always been the bridesmaid. Dempsey also told People that he wants to use the platform for something positive. He set up the Dempsey Cancer Center in honor of his late mother. And next, you can catch him in the Ferrari biopic, which is out on Christmas Day. He told the AP he did all the driving himself in the movie. A long overdue pick, many.
Yeah, I endorse this for sure. No question. That's always surprised me. That's funny. Thanks, Joe. Well, the next story is the perfect example of bad timing. A New Jersey man is just about to sell his pickup truck when a deer literally comes flying out of nowhere in an absolutely unbelievable jump. Goes right into the truck. Lucky for us, it was all caught on surveillance video. NBC's Ted Greenberg has more on the story.
Troy Westcott is all about dribbling in his driveway and getting some air. But the 13-year-old's jumps just cannot compete with this one.
I'm wondering, where did this thing come from?
A leaping deer hurtling over a car before crash landing onto this pickup truck outside his family's house in Hamilton Township Friday. Mere moments after a guy from Ocean County pulled up to buy the 2007 Chevy Silverado in mint condition from Troy's dad.
Oh my God!
The stunning collision putting some dents in the pickup and the $9,400 deal Jay Vaughn had made with the buyer.
Just couldn't believe it. You know, you promise the guy the truck's in immaculate condition and a deer comes out of nowhere and just caves the side of it in.
It's funny seeing the video, but it was shocking to see it on in person. I've never seen anything jump that high in my life.
Surveillance video of the deer's jump into and out of the truck has gone viral on social media. Jay, not surprised at all.
I've watched it at least 100 times because it's still funny to hear it crash into the side of the bed.
The deer ran out of view pretty quickly. The family's not sure if it was injured at all. Jay did, though, cut the price of the pickup down to $8,500.
What are you going to do? I mean, the guy wanted the truck. He said, I'll just buy a new bed for it.
A wild transaction.
I'm not going to ever forget this.
That still got off the ground after reaching unexpected heights.
Our thanks to NBC's Ted Greenberg for that report, the video of the deer's crash landing. We mentioned it went viral. Well, it's already racked up more than 1 million views on Facebook. I could just keep watching
over
it.
And over and over.
That is so
again.
impressive.
It is. The Olympics are next year. That does it for this hour of Morning News Now.
But the news continues right now. Stick with us.
Good morning.
Jinx, I'm Savannah Seller.
I'm Joe Fryer. Right now on Morning News Now, clear message. Democrats and abortion rights advocates win big in several major elections across the country. Ohio voters approving a constitutional amendment guaranteeing abortion rights. Well, in Virginia, the Associated Press is projecting the Democrats will control both legislative chambers. That's a blow to the state's Republican governor who had campaigned for tougher abortion rules. And over in Kentucky, Democratic Governor Andy Beshear reelected to a second term.
Kentucky made a choice. A choice not to move to the right or to the left, but to move forward for every single family.
Bring you all the reaction to those results, plus a look ahead to tonight's GOP presidential debate. Also this morning, Israeli airstrikes pounding the Gaza Strip again as Israeli troops close in on Gaza City. Earlier at the G7 meeting, Secretary Blinken rejecting calls by the UN and aid groups for a humanitarian ceasefire, instead pressing for a pause in fighting and no reoccupation of Gaza.
The only way to ensure that this crisis never happens again is to begin setting the conditions for durable peace and security and to frame our diplomatic efforts now.
We've got the very latest on the ground. Former President Trump's daughter, Ivanka, expected to testify today in the civil case against her father and their family business. We're going to tell you what to expect. Plus, saying goodbye with a bear hug. The Smithsonian Zoo bidding a furry farewell to 3 pandas ahead of their expected return to China. That means the U.S. could soon be panda-less.
Oh.
I know. It's sad. We already said goodbye to the ones in San Diego, where you're from.
Exactly. At our world-famous zoo.
We'll have more on that in a little bit. We're going to begin this hour with the race for the White House. All eyes will be in Miami tonight as the 3rd Republican primary debate will take place.
5 candidates are set to take the debate stage with hopes of cutting into frontrunner Donald Trump's lead in the polls. But as for the former president himself, he will once again not take part in the debate. He is set to hold his own campaign event just outside of Miami. Today, co-anchor Craig Melvin has a preview of what we can expect tonight.
Facing off tonight, 5 Republican presidential candidates: Chris Christie, Ron DeSantis, Nikki Haley, Vivek Ramaswamy, and Tim Scott, all set to debate here in Miami. But for the third straight time, the overwhelming Republican frontrunner, former President Donald Trump, will be a no-show, instead rallying his supporters at an event just over 20 miles from the debate stage. We sat down with RNC Chair Ronna McDaniel and asked her about the former president's strategy.
Why haven't you been able to convince former President Trump to take the debate stage?
You know, he's made a strategic decision as the former president that he wasn't going to debate. I respect that choice. As a candidate, he has that right.
From his standpoint, the no debate strategy appears to be working. He's got a 40-point lead over his closest competitor. What are primary voters? What are they actually getting out of these debates if so many of them seem to be supporting the guy who won't show up for the debate?
I think the debates are about Joe Biden. I don't look at it as about being Ron DeSantis versus Donald Trump.
Mr. Trump's rivals hoping to capitalize on his absence. Florida Governor Ron DeSantis in Iowa, where this week he picked up a key endorsement from the state's popular governor, is trying to gain leverage with conservatives, pointing out Mr. Trump's history of donating to Democrats.
Trump donated to both Gavin Newsom and Kamala Harris.
Nikki Haley now battling DeSantis for second place in key early state polls. The first two debates have been contentious at times. McDaniel telling me she hopes tonight's slimmed down field will focus more on the issues. But in a week when the GOP frontrunner has been in court, she's steadfast in her support of the eventual nominee.
Will the party support a nominee who has been convicted of a felony or felonies?
We're going to support the nominee that the voters choose.
No matter what. If the nominee has been sentenced to prison.
The voters get to make a decision.
Our thanks to Craig Melvin for that report. Well, analysts say a strong debate by Haley or DeSantis will help them make the case to Republican primary voters and donors, of course, that they are the best choice to defeat Trump despite the large lead Trump has in the polls. Well, don't miss the third Republican presidential debate tonight at 8 Eastern, 5 Pacific on NBC News Now, as well as on NBC. It's going to be hosted by our own Lester Holt and Kristen Welker, along with Salem Radio Network's Hugh Hewitt.
As Republicans prepare to debate, Democrats are celebrating a strong showing last night during an off-year election. Abortion rights advocates were big winners at the ballot box in Ohio and Virginia. NBC News Chief White House correspondent Peter Alexander has a recap of the results and the potential impacts it could have on the 2024 election.
Hey, Joe and Savannah, good morning to both of you. Clearly the biggest takeaway from last night, abortion rights again boosting Democrats in key races, including in several red states. Take Kentucky alone, where the Democratic governor there won his re-election bid by a bigger margin than in his first go-around, fending off a challenger endorsed by former President Trump.
Overnight, Democrats celebrating a series of key victories, with abortion rights again proving to be a potent political issue heading into 2024.
Abortion access is the law of the land in Ohio.
In one of the country's most watched swing state races, Ohioans voting to guarantee abortion access, enshrining that right into the state's constitution. Ohio becoming the 7th state to vote to protect abortion rights since the Supreme Court's ruling last year overturning Roe v. Wade.
We own our own bodies.
In deep red Kentucky, abortion rights also at the heart of Democratic Governor Andy Beshear's re-election campaign.
This is our chance to build that Commonwealth we have always dreamed of, to stop the fighting, to push away the division.
Beshear defeating the state's Republican Attorney General Daniel Cameron, who was backed by former President Trump and opposed abortion rights.
This brick wall means we maintain our majority in the Senate.
And in Virginia, a tidal wave for Democrats who held on to their state Senate majority and took control of the House of Delegates, too. A dramatic rebuke of Republican Governor Glenn Youngkin, who was counting on a solidly red legislature to pass a ban on abortion after 15 weeks, with exceptions for rape and incest and saving the life of the mother.
So any sort of scale back of those rights, roll back of those rights that Governor Youngkin was offering, essentially, was repudiated tonight.
One election night win for Republicans in Mississippi.
Thank you, Mississippi.
Where incumbent Tate Reeves won a second term as governor, beating Democrat Brandon Presley, the cousin of a famous Mississippian, Elvis. And in Philadelphia, history was made, Democrat Sherelle Parker becoming the first female mayor in the city of brotherly love.
Those national results allowing anxious Democrats and President Biden to breathe a sigh of relief after a series of recent polls showed Biden trailing in a 2024 rematch with Mr. Trump. President Biden overnight touting the election results, posting voters vote, polls don't. And speaking to Biden campaign officials overnight, Joe and Savannah, they emphasized that the message still matters, and that's proving especially true on the issue of abortion rights. Back to you.
All right, Peter, thank you so much.
Let's pick up on one of those threads that Peter laid and bring in NBC News reporter Gary Grumbach. He's in Richmond, Virginia, with more on the big nights for Democrats in that state. Hey, Gary, good morning. So just walk us through getting to this point in Virginia politics. What's some of the reaction you are hearing on the ground this morning after the results came in?
So given the nature of this race, it was a state legislative race. It was really about the issues and the candidates. We did not see a lot of outside help coming into this race. There was no big Trump endorsement or Trump players in this. There was no Joe Biden or Kamala Harris coming into the state and campaigning on their behalf. It was really about the issues. And as Peter laid out in that piece, it was about the issue of abortion. And that's something that voters very clearly said they do not want their rights taken away any further from that. Right now in Virginia, you can get an abortion up to 26 weeks and a single day. And that's where voters clearly wanted to stand. Here's what some folks said last night at the Democratic Victory Party.
Democrats came out in full force this past 8 to 12 months, focused on the agenda to first ensure that women had rights in this state, the rights to their bodies, which I think is important.
I think our victory and victories across the state are a sign that folks want progress to continue. They want us to focus on the things that matter. They certainly don't want us taking away women's rights.
Now, this is going to be a whole new world for Governor Glenn Youngkin. He now has to deal with a Republican governorship and an entirely Democratic legislature for the first time in this state since 1995. Guys?
So, Gary, what are you hearing from Republicans in the state house? How are they reacting to the results?
So they are taking it all in stride here. They say we're going to hear something perhaps later today from Governor Glenn Youngkin himself, perhaps in form of a video, perhaps in form of media availability. We'll have to wait and see what that looks like. But Spirit of Virginia, Governor Glenn Youngkin's outside political PAC spent millions of dollars in this race trying to hold the House and flip the Senate, and neither of those things happened for them last night. We're talking about money from billionaires from out of state coming in to the state. We're talking about ads cut by people, cut by candidates all over the state. Just an absolute repudiation of everything that Glenn Youngkin wanted to get done over the next few years.
And Gary, let's talk about Virginia Governor Glenn Youngkin's term not up for another 2 years, as you just mentioned. What kind of relationship do you think we're going to see unfold between the governor and the legislature in the meantime? What will get done?
Well, this is going to be a real test of what kind of politician Governor Glenn Youngkin is. And it's going to be a real test for perhaps 2028 when we talk about all those presidential aspirations that he might have as well. If anything related to abortion limitations comes on the table, Democrats are going to immediately throw that in the trash bin. That's not something that is going to be anywhere remotely possible. When it comes to education and school choice, that's something that Youngkin really wanted to get done. That's not going to be possible. So Youngkin has been all about trying to find common sense and common ground. He's only going to have to do that more so over the next 2 years.
Right, Gary Grumbach, thank you so much.
So you could say abortion was indirectly an issue in Virginia, but it was explicitly on the ballot in Ohio, where voters approved an amendment to the state constitution that guarantees the right to abortion.
This right here is the moment the results came in last night in Columbus. Ohio is now the 7th state to have voters ensure access to abortion and other forms of reproductive health care just since Roe v. Wade was struck down last year. NBC News correspondent Priscilla Thompson joins us now from Columbus. Hi, Priscilla. Good morning. So just walk us through what this vote means for how it's going to change abortion access in Ohio. What does this mean moving forward?
Yeah, Savannah, Joe, good morning. That is the big news, that this enshrines the right to an abortion in the state constitution with the provision that the state legislature can put restrictions on abortion beyond after viability. So around 22 to 24 weeks, they would be able to put some restrictions in place. But in addition to that abortion access, this amendment also says that people have the right to make their own reproductive decisions. So that includes access to contraception, that includes fertility treatments, and also miscarriage care. But one thing that folks are concerned about, even as those abortion access advocates are celebrating today, is that the language may be too nebulous, and so there could potentially be legal challenges to come. Savannah? Joe?
Yeah, so Priscilla, you were at the watch party in Columbus last night. What else did you hear from abortion rights supporters?
Yeah, it was quite a moment in the room last night as this decision was announced. The crowd erupted in cheers. There were a lot of tears. There were people who were hugging and just lots of people very excited because many of those people in that room were folks who had been organizing and on this for months. They had been out knocking doors all day yesterday until polls closed. And I want to play some of my conversations with those folks after that decision came out.
I think this is a resounding message that when you put abortion on a ballot, it wins.
We put our hearts and souls into this. We showed up for those who could not show up. We fought for those who were voiceless, who couldn't show up and do these things for our children, for our neighbors' children, for Ohioans.
And another really strong message that we heard from folks in that room last night is that they are going to stand with the other states that are moving forward, figuring out how to protect abortion rights. They're going to work with them to figure out how to organize and how to message around that issue so that hopefully they will continue to see wins in other states in 2024. Savannah, Joe?
Priscilla, so as Joe had mentioned, Ohio was the only state to have abortion rights explicitly on the ballot this year. Looking ahead to 2024, how does this set the stage for abortion battles in places like Virginia and Kentucky?
Yeah, Savannah, there are at least 7 states with an abortion issue on the ballot, including some battleground states like Nevada, Florida, Arizona. And so a lot of abortion rights advocates see this as a potential roadmap to enshrine the protection in the state constitution with the ability for the legislature to put limits on it at a certain point. And at the same time, though, there are folks who are against abortion access that are waking up this morning also looking at their strategy and figuring out what needs to change in their organizing and messaging if they hope to win some of these battles. But so far, since this the Roe versus Wade decision was overturned, all 7 states that have faced a vote like this have voted to protect abortion access. Savannah, Joe?
All right, Priscilla, thank you so much.
Thanks, Priscilla. Well, Israeli Defense Forces are closing in on the center of Gaza City as part of the next stage of the war with Hamas. Global leaders are now increasing their calls for a ceasefire in the region as the death toll in Gaza continues to climb. NBC News chief international correspondent Keir Simmons has the latest from Tel Aviv.
Hey there, good day to you. We've heard from G7 foreign ministers, including Secretary Blinken, wrapping up a meeting around the world in Tokyo with a message of support for Israel with humanitarian limits. The U.S. battling to maintain unity among Israel's allies and with Israel itself.
Beyond the smoke rising over Gaza this morning, Israel now faces a fierce fight, urban warfare. How it's unfolding is hard to judge. The only video from the front lines filmed by Israeli soldiers. In footage from this week, they walk through an amusement park near Gaza City. Near the Ferris wheel, they say, is a Hamas tunnel. Gaza City, now encircled, is the biggest terror base ever built, according to Israel's defense minister. This morning, the US pushing for a pause to release hostages and send more aid. President Biden clearer than ever on Tuesday that he's asked Israel's leader for that break in fighting.
You asked the Prime Minister of Israel for a 3-day pause.
We did choose to talk to him. I did ask him for a pause in the past, yesterday. Still waiting to hear some other things.
But Prime Minister Netanyahu defiant, saying this week that a pause won't happen until Hamas releases more hostages. The US also pushing back after Netanyahu suggested Gaza will be managed by Israeli security forces. The White House responding that an occupation of Gaza is not the right thing to do. And in southern Gaza, more suffering. Beneath concrete, a child's arm. She is 9-year-old Amal. She's alive, but the World Health Organization now estimating 160 children are dying every day. At the hospital, a Palestinian girl telling the camera, "We're alive in a dead world." As Israel continues to mourn its dead from the Hamas terror attacks that killed over 1,400. Yesterday, vigils to mark a month since that day. But plans for the months ahead remain undecided and divisive.
It isn't just what's happening now that's dividing people. What happens next is dividing diplomats. Really, the only common ground that the future can't look like the past.
All right, Keir Simmons, thank you so much.
Thousands of people in Israel who lost loved ones in the Hamas terror attack have marked the end of the traditional Jewish 30-day period of mourning. NBC News correspondent Aaron McLaughlin spoke to those honoring the victims' lives.
Miles from war-torn Gaza, Israeli flags hoisted high, marking the end of the 30-day mourning period, a Jewish tradition to commemorate the dead.
When you come and see it, feel better.
The flags now flying outside the gates of all 16 kibbutzim, brutally assaulted by Hamas terrorists on October 7th, known here as Black Saturday. Aaron Vardon represents Israel's kibbutzim community.
What message are you sending today?
We were here. We put the flags. We don't afraid to come here.
Is this a step towards healing?
Yes, small step, but you know, every big step is start with a small one.
Each kibbutz is now an open wound, closed off and abandoned by residents who've moved to safer ground. Residents like Nadav, Nasi, Sensiper, and his pregnant wife, Vicky. They evacuated from Kfar Aza, just 3 miles from the Gaza border, rescued by the Israeli military on October 7th. 52 members of their village were killed, 17 still missing, according to local media reports.
I saw a death squad, a group of terrorists walking towards us, towards our home, fully armed, with machine guns, grenades. I don't know why. I have no idea, and we probably will ever know why. They decided not to get into our home.
The couple, armed with a knife, barricaded themselves inside their safe room for 17 agonizing hours.
The only thing I thought about was what they're going to do to my wife. She was in her 6 months pregnant. I knew that my fate is going to be easy. They will shoot me and kill me. I didn't want even to imagine what they will do to her.
When you hear him describe what happened, how he was worried for you, I can see tears in your eyes. Of course. He's my hero.
After the attack, Nadav and Vicky moved north, along with the other surviving members of their now shattered community, taken in by another kibbutz outside Tel Aviv. On this day, together, they remember one of many ceremonies taking place across Israel.
As a Jewish, the 30-day marks it, but for us, it's only the beginning. Everyone's here, their souls are just devastated.
Our thanks to Aaron McLaughlin for that report.
Very powerful. Let's turn to weather now. This morning, temperatures are still unusually warm in parts of the country.
Let's check in with Angie Lastman to find out what we are in store for. Angie, good morning.
Well, you guys, good morning. I don't know what season it is around here because we've got mid-80s happening in St. Louis today, and we're running almost 30 degrees above normal for this time of year. So well warmer than we should be. Either way, low 80s across the board from Tulsa to Nashville, Charlotte, Jackson. You're going to hit 84 degrees along with Dallas. Similar story too. Notice up in portions of northern New England, though, the warm air is not quite getting there. 46 degrees for Boston, actually sitting below normal, but just down the road in Washington, D.C., it'll be a mid-60s kind of day, just a touch above normal. Here's what we'll deal with in the next couple of days, though. We've got some rain working through, and this is going to be something that we'll see across mostly parts of the Great Lakes for the day today. A little bit of snow, some icy mix that you'll have to deal with the farther north that you are, but a heads up for that. If you're going to be traveling in that area, you might want to take it slow on those roads. They could be slick at times. We move a little farther to the south, and this is where the heavy rainfall is going to be stretched across for tomorrow for parts of the south. We've got a system that's going to continue working through. It'll be basically the heavy rain from Texas to Arkansas. Now, one thing to note, this area does need some rain, specifically the Tennessee Valley and up into the mid-Atlantic, dealing with a top 5 driest fall. So we, of course, could use the rain there. We're going to get some, not quite enough, but still it'll help either way. And that front is going to continue to push a little farther to the east, hence that rain working into the Tennessee Valley and the mid-Atlantic. Now, we'll still see the showers across parts of the southeast as we get into tomorrow. Friday. Notice that this is going to impact folks for their Friday plans from Raleigh up through Atlanta and down through Jackson. So we'll still see some soggy conditions there. By the time this is all said and done, it looks like the heaviest of the rain is the Thursday, Friday time frame stretched from Arkansas into portions of Texas. This is going to be maybe 1 inch to 2 inches with some impressive hourly rainfall rates. So just a heads up that there could be some flooding concerns. Now let's look ahead to the weekend. Here's Friday for the big picture. We've got a chilly breeze that'll be expected across the Great Lakes in the Northeast, but temperatures kind of right where they should be, back to the 50s in some spots. We'll see some snow showers across parts of the Sierras and the northern Rockies, and plenty of sunshine across the Southwest. But notice that heavy rain. It sticks with us, not just for your Friday across the Southeast, but for your Saturday, too. It'll be stormy through Texas. We'll see weekend conditions looking great, though, really in most other places except the Pacific Northwest. We've got lots of sun on tap for the middle of the country. Great conditions, but chilly conditions for the Northeast. Perfect for kind of fall activities. Bundle up, and I think it'll be nice with some sunshine on tap. Savannah, this is for you. Sun day on Sunday.
I also like weekend beauty.
Yeah. Oh, yes. I knew you'd like that one, too. How about mild Rockies? That's kind of boring, but it sounds like a good forecast to me.
Mild.
Yeah, we'll take it.
Yeah.
And
we can get more creative there. We can come up with something.
There's plenty of sunshine, and it's mild. Who could be mad about that when we're gearing up for winter right around the corner?
Angie, thank you.
Thank you. Coming up next to take the stand.
Former President Trump's daughter, Ivanka, set to testify this morning in the civil fraud trial of her father's company. What is at stake there? Up next. Welcome back. The financial fraud case against Donald Trump is entering its final stages, with the former president's eldest daughter set to take the stand today.
Ivanka Trump served as executive vice president for development and acquisitions at the Trump Organization until 2017. She tried unsuccessfully to block her testimony.
For more, we're joined by NBC News legal analyst Angela Sanadella. Angela, good morning. So Ivanka Trump hasn't been with the Trump Organization since 2017. Also important to note, she was dismissed as a defendant months ago, and yet she is being asked to testify. Explain why and what you're looking for.
Well, it still seems like she was in the room when it happened, given that she was responsible for securing some of the loans that are relevant, particularly for the D.C. property. She also allegedly is the one who formed relationships with Deutsche Bank. And remember, all of this is about allegedly falsifying documents in order to secure favorable loan terms. But what I am looking for today, Savannah, is why they have her being the last witness on the stand for the plaintiffs, for the civil prosecutors here. Because Donald Trump went on Monday. The fact that Ivanka Trump is coming after her after him, to me, is a possible signal that they think that they can get her contradicting Donald.
So, yeah, what are the types of questions do you think she'll face on this stand? And is she potentially in any legal danger here?
She is not in legal danger relative to this. But remember, anything can happen with regards to your testimony. So if she does start bringing up facts that maybe we're past the window of prosecution, past the window of this lawsuit, then that itself could be a new cause of action and open her up to all sorts of civil or possible criminal lawsuits, given that this is fraud overall. But what I am looking for is maybe her answering that he did know something, that she was directed by Donald Trump to falsify documents in some way, because the fact that she is the final one is relevant. She is a lovely witness in every way, unfailingly polite, in a way that maybe Donald Trump is not. And there is no way the Attorney General's office would have her end if she's just going to echo what they've all said before.
Angela, it's important to note, of course, Trump and his family have denied all wrongdoing in this case, but something that we did see from Ivanka's brothers, John Jr. and Eric, who have also been on the stand, they were distancing themselves from financial statements at the center of this case. Do you expect Ivanka will try to do the same? I mean, will she have to do the same, given that she's been out of the organization for some years now? Are we going to see that same type of tactic?
So that is certainly what we expect, because we expect that she's going to also blame the accountants, as everyone else in her family has, and continue to keep that distance. But again, I am curious. I think the AG's office thinks there's a possibility that they will catch her on the stand, either in some sort of contradiction or in some way going against what her father said. So I am really curious to see what she says, because again, there is no way they would have this final witness just be echoing an echo chamber.
All right, Angela Sanadella, thank you very much.
The Supreme Court has taken up a case that could have major ramifications when it comes to gun rights in America, and the court appears to be moving toward upholding a law that bans domestic violence offenders from possessing firearms.
The justices heard oral arguments yesterday in United States versus Rahimi. The case involves a Texas man who was convicted for unlawful possession of guns after his girlfriend got a restraining order against him.
NBC News Justice and Intelligence correspondent Ken Delanian joins us now with a closer look at the case. So, Ken, break it down for us. What did we hear really from both sides during the oral arguments?
Good morning, Joe and Savannah. Zaki Rahimi assaulted his girlfriend, threatened her with a gun, was slapped with that restraining order, as you said, then went on to commit other gun crimes because he ignored the order and is now in prison. But he brought this case challenging the constitutionality of the law that withheld guns from him under that restraining order. And the conservative Fifth Circuit in Texas ruled that it was unconstitutional based on the Supreme Court's previous Bruin decision, which held that any gun regulation in America has to have an analog in history. It has to be something the founding fathers would have envisioned. And the conservative Fifth Circuit said that this domestic violence provision did not fit that bill. But a majority of justices yesterday appeared to disagree and appeared to coalesce around the idea that a person adjudged at a risk of domestic violence could be considered a dangerous person, and therefore their guns could be withheld from them. But there was other disagreement around other aspects of what the Bruin decision means. And that's important because the lower courts are really looking for some guidance here. And that's what the Biden administration asked the justices to do with this ruling, is to create a set of standards. Because right now you have a lot of different gun control laws being thrown out by various lower courts. And experts don't even agree what the history of gun control in the United States is. So it's a bit of a mess out there, hoping the Supreme Court can resolve it.
Ken, let's get some background here and look at some statistics on this. According to public health researchers, more than 12 million American adults are victims of domestic abuse every year. And also, an abuse victim is 5 times more likely to die at the hands of their abuser if that abuser has access to a gun. Also, just this law that we're discussing over the last 25 years, the law at the center of this, it's blocked more than 77,000 attempted gun purchases by people under these restraining orders. Seems there's a base case for why this is in place. But tell us what the Supreme Court's ruling, one way or another, in this case could mean for our gun laws and certainly, of course, for this law.
It's all great points, Savannah. Look, the worst fears of gun control advocates and domestic violence activists in this case is that this provision would be knocked out. Not only it would have the implications that you suggested, it would pave the way for a lot of dangerous people to be acquiring and keeping guns, but it would raise questions about the other federal prohibitions. For example, if you're a felon, you're not allowed to have a gun. If you've been committed to a mental institution, you're not allowed under federal law to have a gun. If the Supreme Court decided that this provision was unconstitutional, it would raise questions about those other provisions. Again, it doesn't look like that's where it's going based on what the justices were saying and questions they were asking yesterday, but you never know, and there's still a lot of concern about the fate of gun control with this conservative court, guys.
So, Ken, the question, we know the Supreme Court doesn't move quickly. When do we expect the ruling in this case?
Probably around the spring, because this is an important one. You never know, but the spring seems reasonable, Joe.
All right, Ken Delanian, thank you so much.
Now let's get to what's making international headlines. The military-ruled nation Myanmar hosted its ally and arms supplier Russia for joint naval exercises.
NBC News foreign correspondent Janice Mackey-Freyer joined us from Beijing with that and other world headlines. Janice, good morning.
Good morning. Let's begin in Myanmar, where the military-controlled government held its first ever joint naval exercise with Russia. This, according to state media. The two countries carried out maneuvers in the Andaman Sea, about 85 miles off the coast. The 3-day joint drill involves aircraft and naval vessels. Russia is a major supporter of and arms supplier to Myanmar's military-controlled government. In a deal being slammed by rights groups, Italy has signed an agreement with Albania to build 2 detention centers that will house migrants trying to reach their shores. Italian Prime Minister Giorgia Meloni says the centers are going to control migration figures, which have doubled since she took office last year. The centers are due to open next spring and will eventually handle 36,000 people a year. And finally, a rare first-class menu from the Titanic that's about to go up for auction provides a glimpse into life on board the ship before it sank in the early hours of April 15, 1912. The menu is heavily water-stained and some of the lettering has been erased. Yet it shows dinner options for the night of April 11th included oysters, beef, and Victoria pudding. The menu is among several Titanic memorabilia items that are going up for auction, and it's expected to fetch about $80,000. Wow. And that is a look at your headlines this hour.
Incredible piece of history. All right.
Yeah, exactly.
Janice, thank you so much.
Thank you. Well, coming up, there's a new twist in the murder trial of Alec Murdaugh.
How the court clerk has responded to allegations of jury tampering. We got those details next.
Welcome back. Months after Alec Murdaugh was convicted of killing his wife and son, his legal team called for a new trial, arguing there was evidence of jury tampering. Now, the court clerk accused of influencing the jury to convict Murdaugh has denied those claims and called the accusations baseless. NBC News correspondent Sam Brock joins us now with the details here. Hey, Sam, good morning. What's the latest?
Yes, Savannah, the latest is more layers to this case. The Murdaugh legal team last month did, as you say, request a new trial and a new judge, basing that off of several juror affidavits which claimed the clerk of court had pressured them to find Murdaugh guilty. Well, the clerk of court has issued her own affidavit saying none of it is true, as the trial court will now weigh in on all of it.
Verdict, guilty.
The 6-week trial that captured the nation's attention and ended with Alec Murdaugh convicted of murdering his wife Maggie and son Paul will not see a new trial or a new judge if South Carolina state prosecutors have their way. The clerk of court, Becky Hill, now issuing a blistering response to the Murdaugh legal team's allegations that she tampered with the jury, which they made earlier this year.
We never considered the likelihood, as reported to us by the jurors, that the clerk of court would go in to the sanctity of the jury room before he testified and tell the jurors, don't be fooled by his testimony, watch out for his body language.
Hill issued her own sworn affidavit, writing, quote, I did not tell the jury not to be fooled by evidence presented by Mr. Murdaugh's attorneys. I did not instruct the jury to watch him closely. I did not instruct the jury to look at his actions. Officials also released interviews with 9 of 12 deliberating jurors, with one saying, I was not coerced to give my verdict. I came to the decision of my own free will. In another, one juror did mention a body language remark, not specifying who made it, writing that before the jury went into court one time, a comment was made to watch his body language, but adding, I didn't take it any way other than to watch his body language, and that it didn't persuade me of the decision that I ultimately made. 3 other jurors declined to be interviewed by the state. In swatting down the claims, the state said in its remarks, never does the law permit highly motivated convicts to put their own jury on trial. Murdaugh's attorneys declined to comment on the latest legal response. After the verdict, several jurors sitting down with Savannah and Craig, saying they focused on what Murdaugh did on the stand.
Do you think he hurt himself by taking the stand? Did he make it worse?
I think he did.
Now, the state is arguing for this chapter of the Murdaugh saga to be closed.
Now, there is not a timeline at the moment for the court to decide whether or not it's going to grant the defense's request in this case. But, Savannah, it is worth noting that Becky Hill came out with a book in the months following the trial and also accompanied those 3 jurors to New York for the interview, something that our legal analyst described as, quote, highly unusual. Savannah?
All right, Sam Brock, thank you very much.
Today marks 3 months since that devastating fire on Maui ripped through historic Lahaina. It's also been 5 years since California's deadliest wildfire, the Camp Fire, destroyed the town of Paradise. NBC News correspondent Steve Patterson returned to Paradise to discover how the town is rebuilding and passing on the lessons that community has learned.
The town of Paradise has reemerged from the ashes. 5 years after California's deadliest and most destructive wildfire ripped through the community and nearly wiped it off the map.
Does the town feel different?
Yeah, it feels different, but it's still home.
The Frenzel family barely escaped, fleeing the flames that consumed their home.
Home is your safety spot, right? All of that coziness of our life, that kind of like warm feeling is just ripped away.
It's a shared trauma here. Most evacuees moved away after the fire and never returned, but signs of a rebirth have emerged.
5 years later, and Paradise is coming back. Only about a third of the original population has returned, so it has a long road to go, but signs of growth are all around.
Since the fire, the town has rebuilt more than 2,500 homes for new and returning residents. On top of safety improvements like installing 21 warning sirens, road widening for emergency vehicles, placing all power lines underground, and removing more than 200,000 trees. A model now being shared with those suffering in Maui.
We learned so many things, so many lessons. It is really our responsibility to share with others.
Paying it forward and giving Lahaina residents hope. Back in Paradise,
life is returning.
Mayor Greg Bolin is also a local contractor. He says little in his life has been as rewarding as giving people their homes back.
Paradise is their home. And to see them come back and have, in some cases, the first new home they've ever had in their whole life.
The Frenzels recently felt that firsthand.
Now we have box eaves.
Rebuilding with safer and smarter improvements.
Do you feel safe living here?
I think in a lot of ways it's safer than it's been in recent history.
Daffodil.
A test of human resilience.
What's more beautiful than a town full of people that fought really hard to get back home?
Even as a work in progress, it's still paradise. Steve Patterson, NBC News, Paradise, California.
Coming up, charting the fall of a promising startup.
After declaring bankruptcy, we'll take a closer look at the collapse of office sharing company WeWork, once valued at $47 billion. That's next. Welcome back. Let's get to financial headlines. Goldman Sachs is steering away from its GM-branded credit cards.
CNBC's Savannah Hanau has that and other money headlines. Savannah, good morning.
Hey, Joe. Hey, Savannah. Good morning to you. Yeah, so Goldman Sachs wants to drive away from its General Motors branded credit card. The Wall Street Journal reports the bank will start to look for a new issuer for the card soon. The GM card is largely marketed to people who buy and own GM cars. Goldman also issues the Apple credit card, which has also been looking to offload in another step away from its failed push into consumer lending. Rockstar Games plans to announce the next version of Grand Theft Auto. The video game as soon as this week. Now, Bloomberg reports that Rockstar will publish a trailer for Grand Theft Auto 6 next month to celebrate the company's 25th anniversary. The game is expected to be one of the most significant releases of the decade. Its predecessor, GTA 5, has sold more than 185 million copies and is the second best-selling video game all time behind Minecraft. And Gen Z and millennials are having a harder time adulting than their parents did. That's the finding of a new CNBC Generation Lab survey called Money and Youth in the USA. It measures what 18 to 34-year-olds think about the economy a year out from the 2024 election. More than half of young adults say it's harder to achieve the same milestone their parents did at their age, including buying a home, finding a job, or getting promoted. On the plus side, 40% say it's easier for them to find opportunities outside of traditional employment, guys.
Interesting.
Interesting findings,
Yeah, for sure. All right, Savannah, thank you so much.
You got it.
Staying with business news, the office-sharing startup WeWork filed for bankruptcy this week. It's a stunning collapse for what was once a multi-billion-dollar company that hoped to change how and where we work. NBC News senior business correspondent Christine Romans takes a closer look at what went wrong.
With its eccentric founder, its disruptive business model, and an ethos of good vibes, WeWork was once the country's most valuable startup, worth $47 billion, promising to change how and where people worked.
It's a solution for the new work environment.
But today, the company declaring bankruptcy, asking a judge to get out of its expensive leases. WeWork started in 2010 with co-founder Adam Newman's vision.
Being part of something bigger than yourself inspires people to work harder, spend more time at work, and just have fun doing it.
Think cappuccinos, kegs, and ping pong. It grew fast around the world, but behind it all, long-term expensive leases. After a botched attempt to go public in 2019, the board showed Newman the door. Then COVID hit, decimating an already floundering company built around people in an office. In the early days, the 6'5" Israeli-American entrepreneur captured the attention of the media and Wall Street.
Did investors kind of fall under the spell of this charismatic, quirky founder?
I think investors will look back and try to understand what happened here
the fundamentals and the business model never match the vision.
I say workspace.
WeWork's rise and fall so dramatic, it inspired a TV show.
Are you crazy enough? I may be.
Newman today called the bankruptcy disappointing and said it's been challenging to watch from the sidelines, adding, "I believe that with the right strategy and team, a reorganization will enable WeWork to emerge successfully." The company says for now, its spaces will remain open as it works to restructure. Christine Romans, NBC News, New York.
Coming up, bidding a furry farewell.
Yeah, 3 pandas in the Smithsonian Zoo are heading back to China. We're going to have more on the bittersweet goodbye and what it means for the future of panda diplomacy next.
Welcome back. Another hit video game is getting the big screen treatment. Nintendo announced today that a live-action film of The Legend of Zelda is being developed. The film will be co-produced by Nintendo and distributed by Sony Pictures. The director will be Wes Ball, who actually tweeted that he wanted to direct this 13 years ago. So that's pretty cool. Nintendo and Universal Pictures had a big hit in the spring with their Super Mario Brothers movie, and a third Sonic movie is coming next year from Universal and Sega. So cool.
And it seems like Zelda should have happened a long time ago.
Totally.
I mean, when I was a kid, Zelda was like the biggest deal in all the video games.
And
so.
him saying he wanted to direct it 13 years ago. I wonder if there's ever been talk of this, but now it's just time.
I think it'll do
pretty
well.
cool. There you go. Love it.
Some bittersweet news today for panda lovers. The 3 pandas at the Smithsonian National Zoo in Washington are set to board a one-way flight back to China. NBC's Tom Costello is at the National Zoo with more on what comes next.
Good morning. Well, this is the culmination. This is it right now of the long goodbye that Washington has been involved in, saying goodbye to the pandas here at the National Zoo. And all 3 of these pandas are coming out in these crates. Here's the first crate right now. And this is the female panda that's inside that crate. They're bringing them all out individually from their habitat, from their enclosure here at the National Zoo, then loaded onto a FedEx truck. The FedEx truck goes out to Washington Dulles Airport, loaded onto a 777 for the long flight to China, going through Alaska, by the way, to refuel. But this is a sad morning for a lot of folks who've come to love these pandas, who thought that they were going to be leaving in mid-November, but they're leaving now. For 51 years, those black and white balls of fur have been the biggest stars at the Smithsonian National Zoo in Washington. At times, it's been pandemania.
We're so excited to see the pandas.
As visitors have come from around the world to gaze, gawk, and giggle in person and on the zoo's panda cams at the frozen birthday cakes and bamboo delicacies, to toy juggling, tree climbing, snow sliding, to cuddling a newborn.
They just look cuddly, and we just watched this little guy climb up into a tree.
Amber and Cody Potter came here on their honeymoon.
I had planned on bringing her here. She's talked about how much she loved the Smithsonian Zoo and getting to see the pandas.
There's 25-year-old Mei Xiong, 26-year-old Tian Tian, and 3-year-old Xiao Qi Ji.
I think pandemonium is going to break out right here at the zoo.
It was 1972 when pandas first arrived after President Nixon's historic trip to China, a diplomatic and panda conservation breakthrough. Since then, zoo visitors have met 8 pandas, including 4 cubs born in D.C. Now the 3 remaining bears are heading back to China. For weeks, they've been getting used to their travel crates. A FedEx Panda Express plane is this morning ready for the 19-hour flight. Each crate filled with in-flight dining, 80 pounds of bamboo, butternut squash, sugarcane, and pears. Animal keeper Maria Lally will make the trip with them.
Generally, the bears sleep for most of the flight, so that is what we are anticipating, but pandas have to eat for 16 hours a day.
Their return, part of an agreement signed back in 2000, though it does come amid heightened tension between the U.S. and China. But for the zoo staff, which just held an emotional 9-day farewell celebration dubbed Pandapalooza, this is the morning they've long dreaded.
I'm going to be a mess. I will be a puddle of tears on that day because I know these animals. I know them as individuals. They mean so much to me.
Laurie Thompson is the assistant curator.
We spend so much time with the pandas, holidays, and every day we're here, and so it's a little bit heartbreaking to not have them here.
As one native Washingtonian said, it feels like a family member is leaving forever. So this is a sad morning in Washington. A lot of folks thought maybe they had a few more days because they learned that the pandas would be leaving around mid-November, but the zoo was afraid of a crush of people coming here, maybe kind of getting in the way, and so they decided they needed to expedite and leave this morning. By the way, panda merchandise has been flying off the shelves here at the National Zoo. There are still 2 more pandas in America. They're at the Atlanta Zoo. They are supposed to leave in 2024, next year. But all of that, of course, the Atlanta Zoo would love to negotiate an extension of that agreement. Back to you.
Yeah, I think a lot of people would like to see them negotiate and extend that agreement.
Yeah.
Tom, thanks so much. They're definitely going to be missed.
Crazy to think about just no more pandas in the U.S.
I know.
By next year, maybe.
Exactly.
Especially, as you mentioned at the top of the show, I grew up in San Diego. Such a thing where our giant pandas.
It was a big deal. I was there right before they left covering that story. And so, but panda merchandise, perhaps the great holiday gift.
You can take a stuffed one, and guess what? That gets to go home with you.
Exactly.
Great.
That's going to do it for this hour of Morning News now.
But the news continues right now. Don't go anywhere.
Thanks for watching. Stay updated about breaking news and top stories on the NBC News app or follow us on social media.